Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and we are back with Personal Finance for Gamers and Hunting Panleons. Got a couple things to talk about. Today we're going to be doing the Introduction to Securities and Investments. I'm going to go over some really high-level stuff, and we're going to talk about what they are and what they do. And then in later videos, I'll be taking on each individual investment type and talking about those in turn. If they're shorter, I might have like two in the same video, but either way, I'll break it down for you. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Please take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider going to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you want to support my work. If you do, you'll get exclusive content. I still need to record my January video. That might be happening tonight. No, January's posted. That's my bad. So, if you want to see January's exclusive video that I forgot I even did because that's how busy I've been today, go to patreon.com/JulianMcBain and become a member. I really appreciate all my patrons. They really are the ones that make me able to do this. Seriously. So, okay. I'm going to preface this by, if I have any brain farts, I apologize in advance. This also goes for Wednesday's video, because as you all know, I batch these out. I'll be recording Wednesday's video immediately after this video. The story so far is it is currently Saturday evening. This video, of course, goes up Sunday morning by 9 o'clock. That's cool. Oh, cool, a global. 13 ped. No shit. I recently enrolled in a University of the People. They're, believe it or not, a tuition-free university. There's some fees involved, but it's incredible. But it's all online, and it's all tons of reading. And this is the first week, and so I'm plowing through the coursework as quickly as possible, and oh my god, my brain. So if I stumble a little bit, that's why. You'll also notice I finally fixed the camera so it no longer cuts off the top of my head, because that was really irritating me, and I finally figured out what was wrong. So there's that. Okay, let's get into what are securities, what we would consider traditional investment products. Now, I've got to open with some disclosures. I am not a financial advisor. I am not licensed or registered to provide investment advice. I have been in the past. You can check me out on BrokerCheck. The information I have is legit. I had to go through all of the training. You can look up my real name, which is Paul Vallerand, Vallerand. You all know this. You'll find it on BrokerCheck. And my experience, my role when I was in those places was not to deal with securities directly. I was there to inform clients and customers when it was time to start moving their money from bank products and into the investment sphere and get the meeting with the investment advisor, the financial advisor. That is my experience. That being said, you have to know what you're doing in order to even do that. And according to the financial advisor who taught me most of what I knew, that was harder than what he did, which I don't entirely believe, but hey, there's that. So, in order to keep FINRA happy, I had to disclose that. I also need to let you know that investment products are not FDIC insured. If you're in the United States, they're not FDIC insured, there's no bank guarantee, and they may lose value. It may seem strange that I have to do that, but I want to keep FINRA happy. I don't need any fines or to go to jail. Okay. So, let's talk about what is a security. And in the United States, and the definition will vary slightly from country to country, but this is the basis of it, and I don't know of any countries that have any particularly overly unique securities, so we're going to stick to this. A security is an instrument generally traded on the market, representing an ownership stake in or the debt of an entity. I'm going to say that again. It's an instrument generally traded, not always, on the market, often through exchanges, again, not always, representing an ownership stake in or the debt of an entity. Why didn't I say company? Because not only can corporations or business entities issue bonds, which is a form of security that represents debt, but governments issue bonds. The U.S. Treasuries, they're all bonds. And they work almost identically across the board. So that's the definition of the rough definition of a security. There are some nuanced securities. There's various other derivative products that you can get into. We're not dealing with those those are well beyond the scope of this series. I wanted to get into the basics, the important stuff. And if you want to get into that stuff, go get your Series 7 if you're in the United States or its equivalency in the nation that you live in. Okay. So, what are the types of securities? And again, this is not exhaustive, but these are the most common. And so it's stock, bonds. So, and I'm going to describe each of these a little bit in just a moment. Stock, bond, mutual fund share, and certificate of beneficial interest. Okay. So, what is a stock? And each of these, many of these will get their own videos, or they'll be described in a combination video, like a mutual fund share and a certificate of beneficial interest. And I'm going to get into this in just a second, but the way those two securities work is very similar. The underlying, what underlies them that's different, so those will probably be in a video together. So what is a stock? A stock is an ownership stake in a company, also known as an equity. This is the actual use of the term equity. It's an ownership stake. Equity means ownership stake. That's what equity literally means. I know that people like to use it for various other reasons. They're all wrong. So equity stake in a company meaning you are a partial owner. If you have a share of a company, you're a partial owner. Bonds. These are debt instruments, usually purchased in $1,000 increments if you're buying them directly off the company issuing them. They produce interest as opposed to dividends. Stocks produce dividends. Bonds produce interest. And it's as if you were the bank lending to a company in $1,000 increment, a $1,000 loan. So if you've got 10 bonds, it's $10,000 you've lent out. You've basically given a company 10 $1,000 loans that are for 30 years that they're going to pay you a certain percentage, whatever the percentage of the bond is, to you. Okay. I'll get into more detail on that in the bonds video. Mutual fund shares. A mutual fund is a company that invests in stock, in other securities. So you buy these shares directly off the mutual fund, and you have an undivided interest in all of the investments of that company. Certificate of beneficial interest. Oh, crap. A certificate of beneficial interest is the security for a real estate investment trust, which works like a mutual fund, but they invest in land and mortgage-backed securities as opposed to, or in mortgages as opposed to stocks and bonds. And there's a lot of crossover in those two. So, and you're all going, well, what's a hedge fund? We'll discuss hedge funds when we talk about mutual funds, because a hedge fund is essentially a private mutual fund for the really stinking rich. Okay. What are the benefits of a security versus a savings account? Here's the thing. Savings accounts don't yield a whole lot of anything, especially now. If you manage to find a savings account that produces an annual percentage yield of more than 1%, holy shit, congratulations. It used to be when, in times past, you could take some money, you put it into a certificate of deposit, or also known as a CD. It'd produce interest for however many years you put it in the CD, and then it would mature and you get your money out and you have a significant, a reasonable bit more than what you put in the CD. Not so much anymore. Honestly, the only benefit to a CD is, well, there's really not much of a benefit to a CD in the current interest rate environment. So the only thing is that it actually keeps your money safe, but with inflation, you're actually losing ground. And so the benefit of a security over, say, a CD is that oftentimes the securities appreciate as the market moves along. Long term, many securities appreciate. Some of them go down, and some of them disappear. Like you lose all your money. That happens. Which is why they may lose value. There's no bank guarantee. Past performance does not guarantee future results with securities. And this is one of the drawbacks of them. So I'm kind of combining 2 points here, but here's Here's why this is important. When making investment decisions, talk to a financial advisor and find out all the facts about the particular security you're investing in before you put your money in. Because if you invest wrong, you're gonna lose. Now, that being said, depending on the market cycle, you could lose anyway. You could also win. Okay, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a reason that I told people to take their money out of their savings account and put it into investments. I do it today. Every week, I put money into the stocks that I'm currently purchasing. And I might even disclose those stocks to you in a future video, but I don't want them to be considered an investment. I do not want any of this to be considered investment advice. This is strictly educational. So, benefits of securities. The dividends and capital gains tend to be better than inflation, which means you're gaining wealth, not losing ground. And that's not always true, but frequently is. If you have a savvy advisor, they watch the market cycle and they know when to trade into cyclical and counter-cyclical securities. And you're all going, what the hell does that mean? Okay, a cyclical so markets do this. Okay, there's no getting around it. That's how the market works. And oftentimes, and I don't know which perspective you're seeing me from. Okay, that's backwards. So oftentimes they do this bit, right? So markets do this. I've got to remember I'm backward. Markets do this, and they usually do it in this fashion. Okay, cool. So, a cyclical security is up when the market is up and down when the market is down. Okay, cool. A counter-cyclical security is down when the market is up and up when the market is down. It's like, well, how would a security be down when the market is up and up when the market is down? Because those industries are often your safe havens. They also rely on certain types of investments, or they are considered places that people will go when things get tight. If I remember correctly, one of the most common counter-cyclical securities to look at are banks. Because you know the bank's going to survive. Well, 2008 notwithstanding, no one saw Bear Stearns crashing the way it did. Was it Bear Stearns? I don't want to get caught for libel. I think it was Bear Stearns. Yes, it was Bear Stearns. No one saw Bear Stearns crashing the way it did, but they did. So there are industries that are counterintuitively down when the market is up and up when the market is down. A savvy investment advisor knows what those companies are, and if you're in an advisory account, which allows the investment advisor to move your money around on their own recognizance, which means they have as much control over your money as you do. There's a good reason for this. I'll get into in a minute. Then you could actually win overall, even in a market downturn. You may still lose some money, but the market's going to come back. They're going to move you into a cyclical stock again when the market hits its trough, and you'll be good to go. Why would you want to give an investment advisor jurisdiction over your money? Okay, I don't know about you, but I don't have time to be watching the market 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I work in finance. Yeah, that's what I thought. So this is why they have in the United States, and I'm sure they have similar instruments in most developed nations and many developing ones. They have something called an advisory account. In the U.S., the Series 65 or 66 registration is a registration that makes the advisor a fiduciary. A fiduciary is someone who is responsible to make sure that they are doing what is in your best interest, not theirs. And they're like, well, why would anyone take that as an option? Because it allows something like an advisory account to exist. See, the financial advisor wants to make money. That's why you become a financial advisor. It's a tough job. In fact, in the first few years, you may not really make any money at all. And you're going door to door. I know advisors who literally went door to door to make their first accounts. It's tough. So, and you're thinking, well, brokers get, X number of dollars and can commission a trade. Right. But advisors don't. See, the benefit to a financial advisor over a stockbroker, a straight up stockbroker without the fiduciary license, or not bound to it for whatever reason, is that the advisory account pays the advisor a fee based on assets under management. That's the amount of money that you have being managed by the financial advisor. Oftentimes it's it's between 0.5% and 1%. And the brokerage gets part of it because they still have to keep their lights on, and the advisor gets part of it because, of course, he needs to feed his kids or her kids. Okay. So, if you have $1 million and your portfolio makes 5%, it's actually making 6%, and 1% goes to the brokerage as a fee. That's how that works. So, that is why you want a fiduciary, a financial advisor, not just a stockbroker. There's no incentive to churn and just keep trading stocks over and over and over again to generate commission because they don't get any. They want to do what's in your best interest. Securities have capital gains, which is where many people make the bulk of their money on the market swings, especially if they're purchasing stocks specifically for capital gains. Then you have stocks that are less bouncy, often called blue chips, and those are payout dividends, which is functionally similar to interest, but it's different, and I'll get into the difference in the stocks video. Bonds, same thing. You can trade them as necessary. They produce income. They produce much better income than any savings account possibly could. And if you're willing to ride things out, especially if you're just purchasing for income as opposed to purchasing for capital gains, then your income from those dividends and bond interest is going to be far greater than any savings account could possibly produce. It's that simple. In fact, I think the only thing that can compete with a decently managed investment portfolio right now is Algorand's 4% APY just for staking it. I think there's a 5% one on a much more volatile token, but you do the research on crypto. I'm still working on that. Eventually, I'll have a crypto video probably at the end of Personal Finance for Gamers, and that'll be more on a whim than because I consider it any form of a traditional investing tool, because it's not. And I say this as someone who's bullish on crypto. I've been very consistent about this. I am extremely bullish on crypto. That being said, I don't buy the bullshit that it's going to replace any form of traditional investment, nor do I think it's safe. Okay, so what the hell? I hit a button. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're fine. Okay. When you talk to your advisor, they're going to tell you about a few things that you often can do with your accounts. It's worth talking about them, and if they don't mention it, ask them. In all likelihood, if they don't mention it, they probably forgot for whatever reason. The first is dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging is when you put in a fixed amount of money into the market every periodically on a regular interval. So it can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be daily. Same amount of money once every period consistently. I do weekly because that works for me. And so by doing that, you get a little more when the market is down, you get a little less when the market is up. History has shown that if you do dollar cost averaging, as opposed to trying to time the market, you'll turn out coming out ahead. It's that simple. Is it going to be wildly ahead? No. But, 4% is 4%, right? And I can't say that it's actually 4%. I threw that number out there arbitrarily, but it's still better. So dollar cost averaging is a very useful tool, especially if you're a baby investor, a tiny investor. it'll just advantage you over time. This is really good for people who do fractional shares investing like myself. The other one is called a DRIP. This is most commonly associated with mutual funds. I believe there are investment advisory accounts that allow for this, and the advisor just has to check on it regularly and make sure it goes back into whatever stock it came out of. A DRIP is also known as a dividend reinvestment plan. What that means is when a particular stock issues a dividend, then the dividend is then used to purchase more of that stock. It makes the portfolio grow faster. If you're purchasing for, doesn't matter why you're purchasing, especially, this is especially useful in retirement accounts. And in fact, they're all almost universally designed to have a DRIP in retirement accounts. Because what will happen is any dividends or capital gains are immediately reinvested into whatever fund they came out of, and there's usually an array of them. Oh, and that's another thing. Your 401k is invested in mutual funds. Bring your 401k paperwork down to your financial advisor and get some frickin' advice. Because most of the time, they're supposed to give you options on things to select from. Most of the time, they choose some sort of target fund. What is a target fund? And there's a number of, you know what? I'll talk about that in the mutual funds video. Needless to say, bring your retirement paperwork to your investment advisor when you go to talk to them about investing. I'll leave it as that. Because that's a can of worms that I just about opened. And I'm like, nope, put that back in the can. We have a whole video on mutual funds coming up. Done. Okay, so this has been your crash course in securities. I am a firm believer in securities. I wouldn't have gotten the licenses if I hadn't been a firm believer. Go look my name up on broker checks, seriously. You should be able to look up Julian McBain too, because that's an actual registered alias with FINRA. I had to, that's the law. So please go verify my information if you don't believe me. I still have the Series 6 study guide on my bookshelf. And the only reason I don't have the 63 and 65 sitting here with me is because I brought them to work to loan to my boss. Never read the friggin' things. Gotta bring them home. So, okay, I'm done. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time. So make sure you subscribe. And as always, I really appreciate all the support. Huge shout out to my patrons, Red Crypto Knight, Jay Lambertson, Devin327, Melky, and Robert J. Thank you so much for being my patrons. I really appreciate all the support. We will see you in the next one.